Jared knows what moms really want for Mother's Day. The opportunity to just sleep in and dream of idle playgrounds, empty sinks, and perfectly folded laundry. Of course, there's no better way to compliment mom's peace of mind than with a piece of fine jewelry from Jared Jewelers. A sparkling diamond pendant necklace, or even 14-karat gold hoop earrings. Perfect for the woman who keeps everything in your family perfect. This Mother's Day, be the dad who went to Jared.
Parents of tweens, if you're familiar with far-off drop-offs...
Dad, stop, right here.
Or get DMs about what's for dinner, you may be experiencing tween milestones. For your son or daughter, these can start at age 9. HPV vaccination, a type of cancer prevention against certain HPV-related cancers, can start then too.
For most, HPV clears on its own. But for those who don't clear the virus, it can cause certain cancers later in life.
Embrace this phase. Help protect them in the next.
Ask their doctor today about HPV vaccination. Brought to you by Merck.
You just realized your business needed to hire someone yesterday. How can you find amazing candidates fast? Easy. Just use Indeed. Stop struggling to get your job post seen on other job sites. With Indeed sponsored jobs, your post jumps to the top of the page for your relevant candidates, so you can reach the people you want faster. According to Indeed data, sponsored jobs posted directly on Indeed have 45% more applications than non-sponsored jobs. Don't wait any longer. Speed up your hiring right now with Indeed. And listeners of this show will get a $75 sponsored job credit to get your jobs more visibility at Indeed.com/kidsandfamily. Just go to Indeed.com/kidsandfamily right now and support our show by saying you heard about Indeed on this podcast. Terms and conditions apply. Hiring? Indeed is all you need.
Empire. Hey babies, hey babies, hey babies. Hi everyone. Hi everyone. Hi everyone. We made it, guys. It's draft day. We made it. We made it.
What do you mean make it though? Like this draft is chaos anyways. So I don't even know like what we're watching for tonight.
I reach a point where I'm done talking about it. And so that's today and tomorrow, really. Because like anybody who wants to get, like, I'll be watching everything over the weekend, obviously, because I'm a nerd and I will watch everything. But trying to project any of that out is like watching minor league baseball. Like, it's, you just like let the experts do their thing and just tell me who we got, and then I'll go look at them later. Like that's how that one works.
Yeah,
so.
I mean, I was sick of it probably about 2 weeks ago when I just realized even the NFL people were, really pulling teeth at storylines for this one. Like the Shador stuff is like, all right, guys, I'm over it. Like he's not going to be in the top 10. He's going to go somewhere. And because of his last name, we have to talk about him every day.
I saw the quotes from the anonymous assistant coach that just killed him.
Yeah.
And I thought it was a little much, honestly. Like, I just, at this point in time, to say those things, I thought was a little much to say that. And granted, like, I don't know who it is or what team, and it's obviously not us because we didn't interview him because we're not going to draft him. So, I couldn't tell you who it is. But I thought that was a little rich, the way they went at him. But, like whatever their experience with him was, and he openly admitted that the interviews, some of them, he almost tanked them on purpose. So maybe this was one of them.
That's what I actually, I saw. So one, I saw Mike Florio went like way off on this, and he wasn't going off on the quote. He was going off on using an anonymous source to make that strong of an opinion. So it went to be like kind of like he went into like a journalistic rant on it.
Says guy who uses journalistic, unnamed sources all the time.
Right. And so my pushback was, you don't know. And as you just mentioned, you don't know if this was on purpose by Shador and Dion. How do we know if it wasn't an organization he didn't want to go to and he tanked it? And maybe Shador's like, yep, I remember that one because it's somewhere where he didn't want to go. So
right.
Like, that's where I was on this one. I was like, it's draft season, guys. Let's not overreact to every little story that comes out a day or 2 days before the draft.
All right. I will get into projecting some of the things I think might happen tonight in a little bit before we get around to the Commanders at 29. I know Adam Peters said everything's on the table and we could trade up, and even joked if Abdul Carter was at 27, we would go do something about that or try to do something about that. I don't think they're moving up for anybody. If they are moving up for somebody, it's a couple of spots, and that's literally it. Like, I do not see a scenario by which they're trading away essentially next year's assets to get higher up in the draft for anybody. Like, I don't know who that would be. So I think that's one of those, we're open to everything. Let's see what happens. And because it is Baskin Robbins 31 flavors and choose who you like, maybe someone they really like that they have no anticipation of being anywhere near 29 does fall in the range, and you can maybe have that conversation. I'm going to put that at a 5%, maybe even lower chance of happening. But it would have to be a very specific person. I don't know who that is. And it would have to have fallen in a way that they literally don't expect. And I think they've got their finger on the pulse. And I think they know that that's not going to happen, even as topsy-turvy as the top 10 to top 20 are actually going to be. Trading down feels way more likely. So that might be the funniest part of all these things that we've been talking about for months with them. One of the most likely scenarios for them the whole time was they actually don't even make a first-round pick tonight. That takes two to tango. Someone's got to call them. Someone's got to give them something they want to actually move down. And considering they only have 5 picks and how much they value the draft and how they think the second, third, and fourth round picks are very, very valuable, or as valuable as anything in the middle of the first round, I'm sure they'd like to do that. So that might be the most unironic outcome of the whole thing, is we're sitting there talking about all these different positions and they don't even end up picking somebody tonight.
You know me, I've been on them trading down since like 2 weeks after the season ended. I thought this was the logical conclusion. And the best part about this is it's right for them to trade down. If one of these teams wants Shador or wants Jackson Dart, and they do think he's, a quarterback of the future and he's the guy, they're going to want that 5th-year option on them, because you're not just going to say, oh, no, we'll take him in the second round. If you think he's the guy, you give up the small price to go up and get that 5th-year option with them. I've been on them trading down pretty much since the get-go here, mainly because I just think the talent drop-off from, what is it, like 65-ish to 70-ish players is nothing, essentially. So I think they will trade down. That's been my prediction the whole entire time, unless there's someone there that they love at 29, which in that case, I'm all for it. But I've predicted they're trading down pretty much since the season ended.
Yeah, I there were two things that seemed kind of obvious. It was they should trade down, especially in light of the moves they made, and try to get some of the assets back. And then after they made the trades for Tunsil and Debo, it made even more sense to try to trade down and move, get some of the assets back and move down, especially with the talent pool the way it is. Or you go edge rusher, because it seems to be the literal need of there was nobody in free agency. They clearly weren't going to get the Bengals to trade Hendrickson for anything that makes any sense, whether they want to pay him that or not. Maybe there's a big draft day surprise with TJ Watt. I think there's a potential big time surprise there for somebody, whether it's Washington or not. Like, potentially that's that, but there wasn't anybody to go get. So that stands as the place where they could go. But at 29, you don't just pick somebody because you need the position. You pick who you think is going to be the right player. And more and more and more as we've gone through this, and then I start to lean on the experts who really, really follow it a lot closer than I do. I end up I start following a number of the top tier players. I start watching a lot of the guys that I think is possible they could go to. I lean on them to go, all right, you guys are doing the literal work every day, talking to the scouts, talking to all the GMs. Who do you think what do you think the direction is? And while edge rusher is still a logical conclusion and still could be the way that they go, the mock drafts are really starting to favor a corner. Now, it's any number of 3 or 4 of them, honestly. So this to me reads a little bit that the people who are following it very closely think this is the direction they're going to go. They can't seem to come to any consensus of which corner it's going to be, because there's 3 of them that are being named. And then there are others being floated to me saying on the side, this is not the huge priority because we like other people late in the draft. We're going to get a corner, but we don't necessarily need to do it at the top of the draft. So this is more than smoke screens. This is a fog that you can't see through, and it's driving conditions that you shouldn't drive your car through. That's where we're at right now. But if I was following the way the wind was blowing right now, I now have kind of fallen into the category of, I think it's going to be a corner if they stay at 29.
I mean, I'll take it. Like, right, we have a couple of positions that we have listed here that we wouldn't be surprised if they take, and we wouldn't be surprised if they kind of shored up. Yes, I think edge rusher is probably their number one priority in this draft in terms of getting someone that could be an impact player. We don't know if there's going to be someone there that's an impact player. And Peters, as you said yesterday, Peters did kind of like show a little bit of his hand by going, there's plenty of those edge rushers that can play in a bunch of different schemes. So that also tells me they're eyeing somebody that they don't need to draft that high either. And so it's all puzzle pieces. I don't care which way you fill it out. I would love to see basically a corner, an edge rusher, an interior offensive lineman, and maybe one offensive weapon like a running back or a wide receiver. I don't care what order you get it in. And maybe that's kind of what he's getting at here, and what the team is getting at is, don't panic when we make the first move on Thursday, because come Friday and Saturday, there's going to be some other moves that you're going to like.
Yes. So, like, he also, this is why you listen to these press conferences closely. He didn't say very much, but when asked about picking at a position, because it's so wide open for them, the Tunsil trade and the Debo trade gave them the opportunity to really be wide open. And I've described this for weeks as anything but a quarterback. They could take literally anything but a quarterback, depending on what it is. But there's some of the position groups that they have beefed up a little bit here in free agency. The signing of Jonathan Jones, who could easily be a starter for them, plug-in starter for them. The assumption that Lattimore is going to be healthy, which is an assumption, but they've made their bed with him. He's supposed to be their number one corner, so they need to move forward that way. We know Sanders still a stud, and we know he's a starter. Inside or outside, we know that that's the case. When they made the move for Jones, it made me less likely to believe that this is the direction they would go, mainly because they believe they have an open window to go try to win a championship. The 29th pick is going to be someone that starts, which is why I started to lean into, it could be an interior offensive lineman. It could be a right tackle. It really could be a running back. I suppose it could be a receiver. I suppose it could be a linebacker. I suppose it could be a safety. I suppose it could be a corner, but it was more likely to be these other positions. When Peter said the other day, we're not against having competition here when talking about these types of players, and name checked the position, cornerback, I went, okay, you are telling on yourself a little bit. The wind is blowing on the mock drafts because the mock drafts not only rank the players by who they think are the best players, but they then get to the point where they go, all the information I'm getting from the people who are making these selections are leaning me in this direction. And that's why I'm starting to feel like, why I didn't think a week ago it would go this way. Corner feels like it's kind of happening. But again, it will come down to, it's got to be the guy they like. And because this draft is so upside down with where people are going to be slotted, the guy they might like might go 10th, and then other mock drafts say he's going to go 30th. Like, that's how upside down the whole thing is.
Yeah, and I've been a big proponent of how do you build your team and make an impact with this pick too, right? And that's where I was leaning, hey, if they take an offensive player, the impact could be a little bit faster than some of these other players. Like, how much more are you upgrading if you take the edge rusher there or the cornerback there? Well, I'll make the argument here with cornerback that I don't think a lot of people have, is that, okay, there isn't going to be like this stud edge rusher that's going to be Myles Garrett, right? Because he was the first overall pick. But you draft this corner, and as you just mentioned, there are 3 corners that were slotting in right away as the top 3. You draft another one, well, all of a sudden your coverage is a lot better with having those 4 corners there, and maybe the defensive line then eats a little bit more because your coverage is so good. I see the argument to improving the defense a little bit here too, if the position is cornerback for that first round pick. Because my whole thing has been, how do you impact the roster with a player at that 29 pick? It's hard to do. Even, the good teams will tell you you're not getting like this stud. So how do you kind of have a trickle down effect happen? That could be a way to do it. Yeah.
And I think also you do. And I think there's some legitimacy to this. Let's be realistic about the way Lattimore looked last year after they acquired him and injuries he's had the last couple of years. And their position was, we got him hurt. Remember that part. When he came back, under different circumstances, we may not have had him come back. We want a full off season with him to get him healthy again, and then judge him next fall when we get around, and let's see if he looks like the guy from a couple years ago. Well, maybe you want some insurance for that too, because that is a leap of faith that he is going to get back to where he was. And if he was what he was a few years ago, you have a number one Pro Bowl corner on your team, which is what you needed. But what if he's not? Or what if those soft tissue injuries come back again? You can't be in the position you were a year ago again. And so I would hear an argument out here that this is some insurance too, that you're going to have somebody who's going to come in here and hopefully win jobs, maybe beat out Jones. It's not going to be Sandra still, beat out Jones. Or if Lattimore has to kind of cede to a number 2-ish position because they're concerned about whatever health issues there, well, maybe that ends up kind of happening over the course of the season as well. So I'll hear out corner when he name checked the position, Peters, and said, we want competition. I went, okay, they're telling on themselves a little bit here. So here are the names that have popped up at this position. Keim likes Maxwell Hairston, who's out of Kentucky. If you see some of the other mock drafts, this is not surprising. He won't be there. When you get to 29, you'll see others where he's a second-round pick. Like, this is how all over the map this whole thing is with all of the experts that are trying to go through it. That's who he likes. He also, Keim, of course, is locked in with reporting on who they like. Like that's, and I listened to his podcast the other day, and he made a point of this and said this. I'm not picking this person because he did it for ESPN.com because I like him. I'm picking him because I think they like him and he's going to be available. And so that's why I'm picking him. And so I think that's a smart way to go about it. He's not taking the position of I've watched him and I think he's great as a press corner or whatever. He's going, I know they like him. And therefore, because the wind is blowing towards corner right now, this is the direction I go if he's available. The other one that popped up, and this is the first time because I've watched some of this guy, Daniel Jeremiah took the Texas corners, the Jim Thorpe Award winner, Jade Barton. And I'll tell you what, like there are maybe some size issues. He's not quite 6 feet. He might be a little shorter than that. They always exaggerate, someone's height. So they say he's 5'11". So they're putting him on the cusp of 6 feet. He might be a little bit shorter than that in real life. I'm not really totally sure. But they also list him at around 200 pounds. So he's not a really light guy, especially if he's a touch shorter. He is a very good, instinctive player. His name popped up with Daniel Jeremiah at 29. So again, mock drafts are starting to point to corner as a position. I've seen them linked to the Florida State corner as well. Keim likes Hairston if he's there. DJ says Barton, who was, I don't know, as of 2 weeks ago, number 13 on many of the draft boards. I got to tell you, like and I don't know a ton about Hairston, but Barton, if he were to fall to 29, this would fall in the category to me of Johnny Newton. Almost too good to turn down, and that would have to be the choice there.
No, I would agree on Barton on that too, because I remember seeing that it was like top 15 last draft that I really read up on. And same thing with you, though. Like I'm reading these names, and it changes every single week or every single day. I would love if Barton fell down too, because guess what, too, with him, the hope is that everyone is healthy to start off the year. So Lattimore will, be your number one corner. And the other thing too is, like, there's a little bit of development time here, too, with one of these corners as well. They're not going to rely on him, hopefully not right away, to step into the lineup, too. And that's an advantage of taking a corner, too.
So that's corner. I'm starting to listen. I'm just following the way the wind is blowing. Where I've been the whole time. If you listen to this show, I've been dying for a running back, whether it's first or second round. And if it's Travion Henderson, even better. Will he be there? Who knows? Latest mock rounds don't have him falling to 29 any longer. So we'll have to see. But the other obvious defensive side of the ball position is edge. And Ben Standick hasn't left that part. His pick was Nick Scourton, who on most of the mock drafts does not end up in the first round. So he could be, if Ben is right about, what the people think about him, and he's got all of the intangibles that the Commanders are looking for, they might think he's the second round pick for them, because I haven't seen a lot of mock drafts that have him that high. So maybe they're thinking he's the guy that they'll get at that position then. Others like the player from Boston College, Mike Green, the edge from Marshall, who's been up and down draft boards the whole time, mainly because of some concerns on off the field problems, was part of the Top Golf contingent and has visited. So that is interest, right? Like you can't overlook something like that. When a player is brought in on these visits, it's obvious that they like that person or at least have some interest in that person. And he was here. So those are the three names I'd be looking at. I saw a couple of mock drafts. I think Peter Schrager's had Shamar Stewart. He's another one out of Texas A&M. He's another one. Some people have him going like 12. Other people have him going in the second round. Schrager has him listed as going to the Commanders at 29. It's an obvious like need pick for them. Stewart's got, you'll see him. He looks the part. He's got every intangible, the speed, the size, the athleticism, and he's got no numbers, which to me is very hard to explain when you are an athletic freak, but you don't have any numbers to back any of that up. So I am more inclined to believe that the two names, the BC guy or Scourton, who Standig likes, could be the first or second round pick if they are there. And that Stewart is less likely to me, not because he might not be the best talent on the board, but I'm not sure if the talent's manifesting on the field. And I don't look at this group as a group that goes, let's take somebody just for their athletic skill set and see what we can do with them.
No, I think if you ask the fan base too, like Stewart screams another Montez Sweat, unfortunately. Like good, but the numbers never really translated. The impact didn't translate. I think that's the word that I'll use here, because numbers aren't everything on the defensive line. They're a lot, but they're not everything. Ask how, our defensive tackles have played. Sometimes the numbers don't scream how great they play or have played in the past. But that one screams to me. I don't think this group is like that either. I think they are about performance. I think they are about numbers. And I don't see them going that direction.
Yeah, I don't either. All right, so let me get to the other side of the ball then, which is where I've been focused kind of for the last 3-4 weeks going, I don't know, like they're bulking up the offense. There isn't an obvious defensive player they should take because they're picking 29 in a weak top level talent. Could you get a instant dynamic playmaker / instant starter on that side of the ball and continue to kind of build that? And hopefully you end up with a top 5 offense, considering who the quarterback is, who your left tackle is now. You now have 2 number 1 receivers on this team. You kind of have the makings of something that could be very difficult to stop. So there are, on the offensive line, I still think it's very, very possible, although the wind is blowing other side of the ball, and specifically a corner. If Tyler Booker, and most mock drafts do not have him getting to 29, but if he were to get to 29, he could best interior offensive lineman off of the board. You could plug him in at left guard tomorrow, put him next to Tunsil, the Biotish. When Cosme comes back, it was actually nice to see him at the Caps game last night. He was part of the contingent that was out there chugging beers at the Caps game last night. Cosme, when he comes back, and then Coleman at right tackle, you have a group that looks like could be together for a long time. And you've got what appears to be potentially high-end talent. The other one's Josh Connerly. I just saw a mock draft. I think it was Daniel Jeremiah that had him going after the Commanders, 30 or 31, something like that. He is potentially one of the most athletic and best right tackles. If you can, you've got your 2 tackles presumably set, Tunsil and him, Cosme when he comes back, Biotish, and now Coleman's a guard, and he may end up being like Cosme. His future may be as a high-level guard. I'm not totally sure which one it is. It might be. So I don't take this off the board. If either one of them are there, I think it's going to be very, very enticing. And I think if Booker is there, to me, that's a no-brainer to select him at 29.
No, I mean, to me, offensive line has been one of the positions where if the draft is not going their way or they don't have a player that they love, take the best lineman, and I'm completely okay with that. Look exactly what the Eagles have done. The Eagles have more than 5 linemen, and it's helped them basically get through all of their seasons when they have some injuries, they get banged up, whatever. Like, you take what the best teams are doing and you copy what they do. I would be completely at peace with the best offensive lineman on the board. You know how it is too. Inside out, I'd be fine with that.
So I keep getting told, because I've been stumping for a running back for a long time here. I keep getting told, and I don't know that they would do this, but the pushback I get from people that I talk to in and around the team is essentially they won't take one at 29. But I respond with unless. And that is unless somebody's there. Like, would they take Omarion Hampton at 29? I don't know, because I don't know whether they love him or not, even though if they think that he's a really, really good prospect. They will also tell you, and all the experts will tell you, that this is one of the deepest positions of the draft is running back. So if you wanted to take one in the second round, you'll have really good options. If you even want to wait to the fourth round when they would pick again, assuming that they don't add any assets back with the trade down tonight, you will find explosive-esque players in that spot too, namely the running back out of Virginia Tech, who they have visited with multiple times, who is very fast, has those Jahmyr Gibbs-like skill sets. I don't want to put him in any kind of category because I think Gibbs might be the best explosive player in the NFL going right now. Nobody else is that until they come in here, but he's got the look and feel of someone who might end up being something like that. And I just keep saying but, because if Travion Henderson is there, I think that is going to be very, very, very hard to turn down. He's a 3-down running back. He's a tremendous pass blocker. He's an explosive playmaker, and he's a home run hitter. And I love the running backs we have. This isn't an indictment of B-Rob, but I think we know what Brian is. He is not going to hit a number of home runs during the season. He, in general, is a very reliable player. He's a tough player. At the beginning of the season, I described him as gas in the tank. When he was going well, their offense became very tough to stop. He's kind of a physical presence. But if you're looking for, and I know they are, and I am too, just general, more explosiveness out of positions in the offense, that got addressed at receiver with Deebo Samuel, and I don't think it's been addressed at running back. And I think if Travion Henderson is there, even if it's against your better judgment to take a running back at 29, I think you do it.
I think the other argument here is going to be, though, if another team likes Henderson enough that some team could trade up.
They're going to jump us.
Well, they could trade up too. Like, and that you'd have to weigh that as well as if you like another running back close to him, you might want to trade down too. I'm with you. Yes, somebody might try to jump, but maybe you're the team that holds the cards too, that maybe because they were saying, hey, we want to gauge some of these other teams' interest. Maybe another team really likes him and you do trade down and grab another asset on the way down. I wouldn't be opposed to that. I'm with you. If he does drop, that's one of the running backs that I would want to take there. But at the same time, my priority is trading down pretty much this entire first round.
Yeah, I'm okay with that. Like, I do think there's a distinct possibility that we're walking in here tomorrow and all of this was for nothing because they ended up trading down. They didn't take anybody.
Right.
Like, I think that's distinct possibility. For me, if I had to order it of preference, and again, this is impossible because the mock drafts are so all over the place about who's going to go where. And even Adam Peters has admitted they're not sure what it's going to be this year. Very unpredictable outside of the top 5. We know who the top 5-6 players are going to be. Maybe not in the specific order, but we know who they are. Like, Cam Ward is going to go number 1. Abdul Carter and Travis Hunter are going to go number 2 and 3. Will Campbell will get taken 4, 5, 6 somewhere. Ashton Genty will be taken 4, 5, 6 somewhere. And then it's choose your own adventure from that point forward. And maybe a couple of the higher end edges or a couple of the higher end players and the highest ranked receiver, they go in the top 15, but that's it. And after that, it's who knows what's going to happen. So all of these people that we name, none of them could be there. All of them could be there. Like, it's the weirdest draft I can remember at this level of it, of this top tier level of it, where you could name 6, 7 guys and go, they all could reasonably be there. The wind is blowing corner. So because of that, I'm inclined to believe that's the direction they are going to go. And I think it will be Barton if he's available. And it's probably Keim is going to be right. It's Hairston if Barton isn't available. But if I were to go in order of what I want, knowing how deep edge is, they've acknowledged this. I'm addressing that in the second round or later, personally, unless it's the one that they want. And I don't know who the one would be at 29. For me, it's Henderson or Booker. Those are the two that I would want. I'd be very open to Connerly, the tackle, but Booker as a just plug him in. I know it's not flashy to take an interior offensive lineman, but if it's going to make their offense that much better overnight by putting in the highest ranked interior offensive lineman of the draft pick to 29, I got no issue with that. So those are the two. Like, for me, if Henderson and Booker are there, and neither of them probably will be, but if either of them were, that's the name I would take up to the podium personally. But I do feel like in the end, we're talking about them taking a corner or they trade it out. That's what I think will happen tonight.
I'm full team trade down. I just think with the level of talent that's in this draft, I trust these scouts. I trust this front office that a trade down, you just need to find one or two more teams that are willing to dance with you, that are willing to want that fifth-year option. I'm team trade down and then fill in a couple of these needs because I think the depth is there. You add a couple of mid-round picks, all of a sudden you can fill in some of the needs that we've been talking about for all of this time. I think what screams out to me about this draft, and what has been screaming about this draft, is that there's good players that are going to have some potential, but it's such a crapshoot after 10. I am team trade down. You don't need to have the fifth-year option on whoever you pick there because you're not taking a quarterback.
All right, we'll see what they do tonight. Take a quick break. We'll talk about the rest of the top 10 and maybe some surprises that are coming tonight next. Bram, watch the show, ESPN 630, the Sports Capital. Bet Online is the world's most trusted betting platform and your number one source for all your sports betting action. Baseball season is in full swing, and we've just started the NBA and NHL playoffs, which has more ways to stay in on the action with the latest odds, news, and scores, even live in-game betting while the games are being played. With the largest selection of odds on everything from the MLB, NHL, and the UFC, Bet Online remains the number one online source for all your sports wagering info. In between games, head over to the Bet Online casino with all the top Vegas-style games, including poker and a live casino. Bet Online. The game starts here.
Jared knows what moms really want for Mother's Day. The opportunity to just sleep in and dream of idle playgrounds, empty sinks, and perfectly folded laundry. Of course, there's no better way to compliment mom's peace of mind than with a piece of fine jewelry from Jared Jewelers. A sparkling diamond pendant necklace, or even 14-karat gold hoop earrings. Perfect for the woman who keeps everything in your family perfect. This Mother's Day, be the dad who went to Jared.
Parents of tweens, if you're familiar with far-off drop-offs...
Dad, stop, right here.
Or get DMs about what's for dinner, you may be experiencing tween milestones. For your son or daughter, these can start at age 9. HPV vaccination, a type of cancer prevention against certain HPV-related cancers, can start then too.
For most, HPV clears on its own. But for those who don't clear the virus, it can cause certain cancers later in life.
Embrace this phase. Help protect them in the next.
Ask their doctor today about HPV vaccination. Brought to you by Merck.
All right, welcome back. Let's see. Jerry Jones says 2 Cowboys trades are in the works. Now, last year when he mentioned they were going to make a trade, it was for Jonathan Mingo. So what he thinks would make a ton of waves as trade talks and smoke about trade talks, well, that hasn't really lived up to the hype. So what does he mean by this? I don't think he means Micah Parsons, who does not have a contract extension, but I assume will sign with them. And I was thinking about this the other day. If things kind of went sideways, at least contractually, and the Cowboys, they've always ended up paying their guys. The complaint about them is they wait too long and they get leveraged and then they get into bad deals and then they want to get out of some of these deals and they can't get out of these deals, namely with Dak. But they did it with CD2. They waited way too long to get something done with him. They've messed these things up so much that it's screaming they're going to mess it up with him too. But I was thinking about this the other day. After Luka got traded from the Mavericks, I don't think that area could actually stand another trade like that. I don't really, honestly, I don't think you could trade someone of that level from any of those teams until the aftermath of that goes away. Because if you didn't learn a lesson to see what happens when you trade away a generational player in the prime of his career and the revolt that comes with it, then you're not paying attention, because this is months later and we're still talking about it. They're still doing interviews about it. They're still doing one-on-ones about it. And there's still people breaking down who could have acknowledged this, who could have wanted to do this. I heard Wilbon on with Tony, and he's like, I know the reporting doesn't say the owners did it, but I'm convinced that they did it. I'm actually with him on that. There's no chance that this GM went on his own and made that trade without the owners at least okaying it the whole way. There's no chance on earth that they did that. And I was thinking about Micah, and I'm like, when Jerry says trades are in the works, it's not Micah Parsons, even if they have trouble with him contractually, because if they didn't see what happened in that area of the trade of Luka. They're not paying attention to their fan base at all. He ain't going anywhere. He's going to get exactly what he wants.
I mean, to piggyback off what Jerry says too. Remember, he was supposed to go all in last year, and they didn't sign anybody. So, I mean, that's the other side of this too. Jerry could just be talking. On your point about all the Luka stuff too, don't forget Nico Harrison just saying the worst things in that press conference this week too, where he said he didn't realize the impact that Luka had on the fans. Yeah, I'm sure, dude. In the NBA, you didn't know your superstar player was beloved by your fan base. I think this one screams to me the Cowboys are going to get a player. I don't think it's going to be, like Hendrickson or something like that. But two names have popped up in the last 2 weeks that I thought was a little weird. Like, this ended up being the offseason of we have allowed X player to explore a trade, right? Like, for the week or two before free agency, how many trade partners all of a sudden popped up? Remember, I was joking to you, who's going to trade a player for a player? Because there were so many available, right? Two that came up now in the last week or so, Jalen Ramsey in Miami. That one came up out of nowhere. Why didn't you guys put him on the block early in the season? And then we're starting to hear it this week. Mark Andrews in Baltimore. I think those are two players, the ones that Jera kind of likes, skill position players, two kind of big names that could shore up their positions pretty well. I know Dallas already has a tight end, but hey, screw it. They're always trying to add, weapons. Those are the two names that I look at that maybe the Cowboys are saying, I don't think we want to deal with any of these, players past, pick number 10. Let me trade for a name that everyone knows, and it's a splashy Cowboys America's team type, trade.
All right, so I got one for you then. This is what I think. This is my guess on them tonight. And I don't know if they're going to get made fun of for doing this or not, if it does go through. So all of the mock drafts have Ashton Genty going to the Jaguars at number 5.
Yeah.
I don't believe that. I believe that they're saying they're going to take him because they think they can trade that pick. Because they know the Raiders will take him at number 6. Okay. That is almost a dead certainty that he will not get past 6, that they will take him there. So all the mock drafts suddenly, shockingly, have him going at number 5. They have Travis Etienne. They don't need a running back. Genty's probably better. Genty might be Saquon Barkley. Genty might be Christian McCaffrey. That's a possibility here. And so I don't put it past them, especially in this draft, to go, we're just taking this guy because he might be the best player available. And they might be totally right about that. Or they're saying we're going to take him because they want somebody to move up and get him and come to number 5. And that's Dallas. That's Dallas. You don't think they're not dying to get up? They have a lineage of Hall of Fame running backs. They have used high picks on running backs before. Ezekiel Elliott is the most notable one that happened in the past. I think when Jerry is screaming, we're trying to get a trade done, it's the move up to get him. That's actually what I think it is. And Jacksonville going back to 12 and getting another first-round pick or whatever it is, because Jerry, he's the one making decisions, and this is where it's a bad decision. 2 first-round picks to get Ashton Genty could be a crazy thing to do, but that's what I think it is. I think Jacksonville is putting out there they're going to take him at 5 because they're trying to force a trade because everybody knows that he will go to 6 to the Raiders. That's what I think's happening.
I mean, that is the most Cowboys move you could make. They don't usually, they usually don't shy away from grabbing whoever the best running back is in the draft. That's something Jerry has always done. They look at the best skill position player and they just take them. That wouldn't surprise me at all. I don't know if Jarrett is that crazy, though, to give up the multiple first-round picks. Maybe he is. It does kind of scream a bad move, which is what they've been doing over the last few years anyways. Yes.
So that's when he said that out loud, I went, and I just thought, I keep seeing every mock draft says Jacksonville's taking him. Maybe they are. Like, maybe, and you know what? If they've come down to he's best player in the draft, which you could make a case for, like, sure. I would go, okay, like that makes sense to me. But it just yells and screams, we're open for business, guys. Call us up. If you want him, call us up. We're willing to move.
I also do wonder this as well. The reporting yesterday, I think it was Schrager again yesterday, saying that the Browns and the Giants are now open for business. Yes. with the Titans locking in number 1 now. And maybe this is another part of this too, because you're saying multiple first round picks. Well, maybe because of the way that this draft is shaking and everyone kind of knows, hey, after, the top 10, whatever, the value isn't as much. maybe it doesn't take as much to get in there as you think. But maybe that's another option for Dallas, too, is Dallas calls up one of those two because they are willing to trade back. And they're going, all right, fine, we'll take a pick just outside the top 10. You got to sweeten the deal up a little bit. Maybe it does. Maybe it's not going to cost as much as we think to go up that much either.
We know Cam Ward's going number 1. We think Travis Hunter's going number 2. This puts the Giants in what I would describe actually as a pretty enviable position.
Yep.
They could take Abdul Carter. They really don't need to do that. If they do it, it's going to piss off Kayvon Thibodeau. Burns has already been paid. So it's not like it go bother him, and he's not going anywhere. So he's either playing with Abdul Carter or Kayvon Thibodeau. The Giants want to trade back because they're not taking Shedeur Sanders. And could they take Ashton Genty and surprise people? Sure. Could they take a tackle? Sure. But they're looking at this and going, okay, there are some people that are going to think that Abdul Carter is the best player on the board. We've got to trade out of this. It's the one thing we don't need. We need to trade out of this. So I expect them to trade back with somebody. And what will they get for that? I don't know. It probably will be dependent on how far down that they're going to go on the draft board.
Well, and that's
what I think.
That's what I was going to get at with the Cowboys, too, trading up to that, because the way I look at the value, too, is maybe some teams are going, it isn't worth trading up and giving up that much, those assets to get up there because we like where we could pick back here and not mortgage the future for someone like that, too. This is where I think it's like we're going to be feast or famine. There's either going to be a lot of teams trying to move up or not a lot of teams moving up. And I don't know what the value is going to be for trading up these picks. I'm with you on this one with the Giants. I think the Giants should be trading back. I think the Giants should also be specifically saying we want assets for next year, because I think next year's the year they're going to have to go and get their quarterback unless they get one, by trading back. And maybe that's part of the plan for them. Maybe they want to trade back and get Shedeur or get Jackson Dart or whoever their quarterback might be. But the Giants, I think more than any other team, wants to trade back because they're going, we have a couple of needs, and one of those needs is quarterback, and we'd like to just get that pick by trading down, not by trading back up, essentially.
So I've seen this scenario as well, and I kind of buy it. Like, where does Shedeur go? Cleveland is likely to take Travis Hunter at number 2. There are a lot of people writing, what is the possibility that Cleveland trades back into the first round and takes Shedeur later so they get both of them?
Sure.
And they don't have a quarterback. So it's not like they have an answer at that position. They brought Flacco back, who might start for a year. Maybe if they drafted Shedeur, they give him a year where he basically takes his time and he gets ready to go. I don't know where he ends up. People seem to think the most likely scenario is New Orleans, but it feels high to draft him there. And then people point to Pittsburgh, who don't really have a quarterback either, but could go with Aaron Rodgers if he's willing to go. So I do think that this is someone trades back in to get him. And I would buy Cleveland if they were willing to do that. And again, I've said this for weeks. He's the one I want available at the end of the first round because I actually think somebody will trade back in to get him. That's what I think could happen tonight.
Yeah, I think if there's a team that, is in love with him, yes, he gets drafted in the first round. I keep saying he and Jackson Dart are the ones that I keep screaming that at the end of the first round, some team is going to give up a small price to move up and get those guys to get the 5th-year option. If you think he's the guy, you're going to want him as long as possible on that deal. I don't foresee some team taking value with those two guys. Everyone keeps, not everyone, but this week there's been a lot of chatter of, Shedeur, could he slip late in the second round? I'm not buying that. I think people, if someone believes in him, you're going to draft him in the first round because you want that option. That's what it's all about right now.
Yes, I think so. I think it will be in the 20s somewhere. That's what I think will happen. All right, let me take a quick break. Very much the show is ESPN 630 Sports Capital.
Jared knows what moms really want for Mother's Day. The opportunity to just sleep in and dream of idle playgrounds, empty sinks, and perfectly folded laundry. Of course, there's no better way to compliment mom's peace of mind than with a piece of fine jewelry from Jared Jewelers. A sparkling diamond pendant necklace, or even 14-karat gold hoop earrings. Perfect for the woman who keeps everything in your family perfect. This Mother's Day, be the dad who went to Jared.
Parents of tweens, if you're familiar with far-off drop-offs,
Dad, stop, right here.
Or get DMs about what's for dinner, you may be experiencing tween milestones. For your son or daughter, these can start at age 9. HPV vaccination, a type of cancer prevention against certain HPV-related cancers, can start then too.
for most, HPV clears on its own. But for those who don't clear the virus, it can cause certain cancers later in life.
Embrace this phase. Help protect them in the next.
Ask their doctor today about HPV vaccination. Brought to you by Merck.
You just realized your business needed to hire someone yesterday. How can you find amazing candidates fast? Easy. Just use Indeed. Stop struggling to get your job post seen on other job sites. With Indeed sponsored jobs, your post jumps to the top of the page for your relevant candidates, so you can reach the people you want faster. According to Indeed data, sponsored jobs posted directly on Indeed have 45% more applications than non-sponsored jobs. Don't wait any longer. Speed up your hiring right now with Indeed. And listeners of this show will get a $75 sponsored job credit to get your jobs more visibility at Indeed.com/kidsandfamily. Just go to Indeed.com/kidsandfamily right now and support our show by saying you heard about Indeed on this podcast. Terms and conditions apply. Hiring? Indeed is all you need.
All right, welcome back. The Capitals are up 2-0 in their series with the Canadiens. Logan Thompson, who had been injured, came back. Was, I don't know if controversial is the way to put it, but it was an interesting choice considering he hadn't played very much down in the season to start game one. Was good. Last night, he was great. And when a team wins the Stanley Cup, their goaltender has games like this. He won the game for them last night. They were, this is 2 games in a row now that in the third period, the better team was the other team. And he made one unbelievable save last night and a couple of others, including one that I think is underrated, where a puck got deflected and totally crossed him up. And he saw it coming and kicked it away anyway. And everyone's going to see this one crazy save that he made where there was an open net and he just kind of flings his glove around and he caught a piece of it. And it like somehow went by the net. He was tremendous last night and won the game for them.
No, absolutely. And this is one of the factors that I had going into these playoffs. If you want to go back and listen, where I said goaltending was a concern, mainly because, yes, Charlie Lindgren didn't really play himself into starting this series, but Thompson hadn't been good since after the Four Nations break. It was kind of one of the biggest concerns heading into these playoffs. I knew the team was going to kind of clean up their act a little bit, but goaltending, you can't just really flip it on. Well, he did flip it on last night, and he was fantastic. He's the reason they won last night, essentially. And, by the way, looking at, Montreal and Montembeault is good, but he's not going to outduel Thompson, and that's what happened last night, too. Montembeault made some big saves, but Thompson did exactly all we wanted to do, all we wanted Darcy Kemper to do with this team last year and the year before, was to make the big save. He couldn't really do that with us. Thompson has done that. He was fantastic. Lights out. Now they head to Montreal up 2-0.
They also, this is the second game in a row, they did blow a third period lead in game one, and they nearly blew it, and it was Thompson that kept it that way. So what do you make of that? This is 2 games in a row. Listen, they're winning. I'm never going to complain about winning, but this is 2 games in a row on home ice. Leads are nearly blown or blown late in the third period.
Yeah, I think you have to look at how Montreal plays for most of these games. They get hemmed in their own zone. The Capitals have a bunch of chances. I wish they would have buried a few more last night. That didn't happen. And Montreal's a young team. So when Marty St. Louis says, stop messing around, go for it, they turn the Jets on. And that's essentially what's happened. And did the Caps turtle a little bit? Yeah, sure. I'll hear that argument out. But they're going to go ahead and take their chances now, especially with how their D-core plays and how Thompson has played. It's hard to put a team away in the NHL. I think what I actually look at more importantly in this game was the response once Montreal went up 1-0. Connor McMichael scores 2 minutes later or 3 minutes later, and then Dylan Strome buries one as well, 60 seconds after McMichael does. I'm more concerned about those moments than I am at the end of the third. You know how it is in hockey. Every team makes a push in the third period. Once again, it wasn't the whole third period for Montreal either. It was the last 7-8 minutes of the third. That happens in the NHL. My concern level is still pretty low here because every team does that. My concern right now, mainly with this team, is the scoring. Like, they need to bury some of these chances.
Yes.
They were the best team for 50 minutes again. McMichael did exactly what I thought he would do. He was due after his game one, but Villiers almost scored. Lars Eller had a few chances that he just put across the net, couldn't get them on goal. So they need some of these guys to start burying their chances here, or else all of a sudden the series is going to get tight again. But I will say this. They played these two games. They clearly won. The Caps, I think the stat yesterday, they were 8, 19, and 4 in game twos in their history. It tells you just how bad they are in game twos after they win game ones. That's their record. The fact that they are going up 2-0 here, I'm not as concerned. They are still the better team. They just need to clean it up a little bit in the scoring.
Yeah, I mean, there are literal long stretches of domination by them. They're just not scoring a lot.
Right.
They're just not. And this is why hockey's a weird sport. You can outshoot a team 29-10 and be in a 2-1 game. And that's what they've been in. And I think the scarier part is in the third period, the better team's been Montreal, the more aggressive team's been Montreal. And it's not just that they've come back or they've had a chance to come back. Washington's barely testing the other team on the other end. The offense disappears for long stretches of time in the third. But in the first and second period, in both of these games, well, maybe not last night, the first game, they could have been up 5-0 in the first game. The second game, the second period, they really controlled and dominated. They just didn't score enough. And then we got a nail biter, and that's what ended up happening last night.
No, absolutely. But if you would have told me as well, too, they were going to go up 2-0 without Alexi Protas, I would have said, I'll take that. Protas has been one of their guys that once you slot him up there, it's a trickle-down effect to everyone else here, too. So hopefully when he plays in Montreal, that's another matchup. They have no answer for him as well. By the way, one of the little things that happened last night, too, was that scrap with Tom Wilson and the Montreal player where he got under his skin. It's game two, and they're already getting like that. The Caps have the advantage here. They're going to do some dumb things here down the stretch, especially if the Caps go up early in Montreal. That team's going to get real squirrely, real scrappy, real fast. I have all the faith in the world the Caps are going to be the cooler team down the stretch, too.
Yeah, I want to mention Beauvillier, too. He's been a contributor here in games 1 and 2. He had an incredible pass to Strome on the second, what ended up being the game-winning. He had a goal in the first game as well. He was acquired at the deadline. So, again, it's just another new face, new name. They're just coming up roses all the way across the board from start to finish on the people that they've acquired, even now at the deadline.
No, I don't want to disparage the legend I'm going to name, but you're getting Devontae Smith-Pelly energy from this type of guy. That everything he's doing is magic right now. And the fact is that he did slot up for Protas and he's performing this well, makes it hopeful that once Protas comes back, it slots down the lineup once again. That's how the Caps won the cup. It was because they had scoring through all four lines. If Beauvillier does that, or Protas comes back and he keeps doing that, all of a sudden we're cooking. Last night, too, I'll mention one, too, besides Beauvillier, is I thought Ryan Leonard had a pretty good game last night, too. He almost had a great assist, had a scoring chance as well. He's starting to find his legs here a little bit, and especially being a young player, that's probably the lights aren't too bright for him. I really liked his game, but I'm with you. Beauvillier, to me, is through the first two games. Very, very impressive. Playoff energy is what I'll call it. Playoff aura is what I'll call it with him.
Since the Wizards like to talk about glimpses, Leonard had one last night in the third period where he did this spin move on somebody that was one of these where you go, uh-oh. Wait till he starts to get a feel for all of this. You could just, these glimpses of, this guy's got it. Yep. All right. I'll see what happens tomorrow up in Montreal. We'll talk about it then. Bram watch the show, ESPN 630 at Sports Capital.
Jared knows what moms really want for Mother's Day. The opportunity to just sleep in and dream of idle playgrounds, empty sinks, and perfectly folded laundry. Of course, there's no better way to compliment mom's peace of mind than with a piece of fine jewelry from Jared Jewelers. A sparkling diamond pendant necklace, or even 14-karat gold hoop earrings. Perfect for the woman who keeps everything in your family perfect. This Mother's Day, be the dad who went to Jared.
Parents of tweens, if you're familiar with far-off drop-offs...
Dad, stop, right here.
Or get DMs about what's for dinner, You may be experiencing tween milestones. For your son or daughter, these can start at age 9. HPV vaccination, a type of cancer prevention against certain HPV-related cancers, can start then too.
For most, HPV clears on its own. But for those who don't clear the virus, it can cause certain cancers later in life.
Embrace this phase. Help protect them in the next.
Ask their doctor today about HPV vaccination. Brought to you by Merck.